welcome to the Virgo Verdict. I am one of your hosts today, Tracy Ricks, and my co-host is Mr. Sherrod Cohen. Got Sherrod in the building. Y'all, we about to talk some shit and render our Virgo verdict because Virgos be having a lot to say, and we strongly opinionated. So let's get into it. Sherrod, what's today's topic?
Today's topic is what are attachment styles and how do they affect our relationships?
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. And this is coming from the Attachment Project. And it's an article written by let's see who it is. Really doesn't give a name. It just says the Attachment Project, and it was published in 2020, updated last year.
Okay.
And to start it off, it says, what are attachment styles and how do they affect our relationships? According to psychiatrist and psychoanalyst John Bowlby, one's bond with their primary caregivers during childhood has an overarching influence on their future social and intimate relationships and even their relationships at work. In other words, this early bonding creates a template or rules for how you build and interpret relationships as an adult. And he has a book, his work on attachment theory dates back to the 1950s and continues to evolve due to the continuous research based on the subject. Now, there are four attachment styles: anxious, also referred to as preoccupied; avoidant, also referred to as dismissive; disorganized, also referred to as fearful, avoidant; and secure. Those are the four.
And you
Now,
know what? Even in the first paragraph where it says one's bond with their primary caregiver during childhood has an overarching influence on future social and intimate relationships is so very true in my case
okay,
because my mother, who was my primary caregiver, is a lovely person,
okay.
but she was to a degree emotionally unavailable. And um so that meant, and I was around my mom all the time, so I in turn became an emotionally unavailable person, although
You,
I am
wow.
Tracy Ricks, an emotional being.
Yeah, I'm
Like,
about
you
to
wouldn't
say,
guess it,
yeah,
right?
you didn't seem that way. Like we in school, hey everybody.
I'm telling you, Sherrod, I was wearing a mask. I
Okay,
really was.
okay,
Like, my disposition was true, but when it came to intimacy and being vulnerable and being connected with other human beings, I didn't know how to do that
okay.
because I did not experience that in my household. So it wasn't until I got my first serious boyfriend and I met his mother, who was very openly, um she was a hugger, right?
So she was
And
emotionally available.
she was emotionally available.
Now, how
And
old
so
were you?
I was 19.
Okay,
And this was my first like real, like serious grown up relationship. Like, I had fell hard for this guy. And so when I met him, I kind of fell in love with their whole family, and their whole family fell in love with me. So me and his mother, and even right now, 30 years later, she and I are still very close. We developed a relationship with one another, and when I would come over their house, the first thing she would do would give me a hug. And so that was so foreign to me, and I was stiffen up the first few times,
okay,
and she would be like, "Girl," she would shake me like, "It's okay. You're not going to be hurt over here." But it wasn't that. I just was not used to that kind of connection. And I was not used to that kind of maternal connection.
okay,
It made me uncomfortable at first. But then I realized, okay, I can let my guard down now. So over time, and then when I got into I met my best friends that I even have right now today during that same time period, and they were open people, and I kept things very close to the chest. I didn't reveal much. I didn't talk much. So yeah, and it was very much because of this relationship, the kind of relationship that I experienced at home.
Okay.
So I
Now,
get
now,
it. And
now, was the dude that you were dating at that time, being that his mother was so emotionally available to you and open, was he that way also?
he was
Okay.
like they were a very loving family. So and he was a hood guy. He was a street dude, but he was very passionate.
Okay.
And 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 that's probably one of the reasons why I fell so hard because he was so passionate. It was a turn on to me.
Okay.
Um and just like the way that he would look at me, he would look at me intensely in my eyes every time like we would have deep conversations. He would look me in my eye and connect with me in those ways. And he was a hugger. He was very physically affectionate,
Okay.
very affectionate. And I just was not used to that. So it took some getting used to. And I think that's probably why I fell so hard. I was not prepared for
You,
that at
you
all.
know what's funny? I've run into women even in my our grown up years, when it comes
Hmm.
to affection, they are so like, and it's like, y'all do know that affection, me touching, rubbing on you, don't mean I want to have sex. You do mean that, what I'm saying? And it's like,
Hmm.
in their mind, they always thought there was an agenda attached to the affection, and it's like, no,
Hmm.
you just got a nice booty. I just want to rub it, or, you know what
But
I'm
you know
saying?
what? From a woman's position, I can understand that because I kind of feel that way too. Like when men touch me, there's always the assumption that it has a sexual undertone to it.
I,
Always.
I get it. I get it. I really do. I understand it. But, you know, when you know who you dealing with, you should
Hmm.
understand that that's not
Well,
it
yeah,
all the time. Now, some random dude touch you like, I'm just
yeah.
being affectionate, baby. No, that's some
Like, nigga,
bullshit.
no, you're not. You want some
No, you're a
pussy.
creep.
You're a creep. Try. I had a guy from work. I was redecorating my bedroom and I was painting. Actually, I was painting the whole upstairs, and I happened to be telling him about it. Like, um, I'm painting this weekend, and I hate doing ceilings. He was like, "Well, I come and do your ceilings." Now, me and this guy were cool at work. We had a work rapport. This man then came over my house and helped me paint. We had a great time, great conversation through the whole thing. And when it was over, do you know he tried to kiss me? Like, grab my face, tongue out, and everything, kiss me. We hadn't even flirted none of the time he was there. Um, there was nothing in our conversation. We didn't talk about sex or anything at all. And he just, I don't know where he got that now was the time for him to kiss me. Like if you wanted to say, "Oh, I had a good time, I'm attracted," or whatever, I could get that. But he had his whole mouth open, like he was ready to go in. I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa!" That's some creep shit right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I have had more instances like that than I've had instances where it was just regular physical, you know, touch with
So do
nothing.
you do you think your friendliness or whatever kind of like,
I think it confuses some men.
okay,
I think it confuses emotionally immature men
right,
or
okay.
men who have not fully developed in certain areas. Like that's some high school shit. You know what I mean? Like if you think that my kindness is a cover for I like you, then you are very fucking immature. This is just my personality. So, but I have learned over the years that I got to tone it down. I can't give everybody that. So I have like I used to be really just very, hi, do do do, friendly and all that, but I have since toned it down because I've learned several lessons from that and yeah,
Yeah, I
it's got
toned
me
down
in
my
trouble.
friendliness too, because too many women was trying to, take my kindness for me wanting to jump into the sack. And you know what I'm saying? I was like, nah, I ain't with that. It's like, what's the song by was it Stephanie Mills? You put in a rush on me,
Yeah.
but I like to know you better.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I've had so many instances like that. Like, no, I was just being me. And you can't explain it to new people because it in the moment you can't be like,
Yeah,
oh, because then they think you're playing games. Like, no, I'm not playing any games. I'm
yeah,
just being me. So anyway,
I
that was just
understand
the
it.
experience. But yes, I totally agree with this because I have lived this and I know exactly what it is.
Okay,
And I recognized it in myself. And I made a conscious choice then after experiencing my boyfriend's mother and getting the friends that I had. I began to make a conscious choice about what kind of person I was going to be in every one of my relationships.
okay,
But I didn't trust people either because by the time I was, I'll say 22, I had had difficult, challenging experiences with people in my family, namely my father and my brother. I had been betrayed by my father. So I did not really trust people. So that was one of the other reasons. And I had shitty friends up until I became an adult. And I didn't trust females either. Because they was doing terrible shit to me and most people would take my kindness for a weakness. So I felt like, okay, I cannot reveal my true self to just anybody anymore. But it was not a conscious thing. It was something I think that happened naturally just so that I could protect myself.
okay.
Um, but I think of the four attachment styles, I'm more of the avoidant.
The avoidant.
Yes.
Okay.
Um, because I'm not anxious because anxious in relationships um goes back to preoccupation. I was always fully present. It was just I can't give. I limited how much I gave to other people.
And see, the cool thing is this next section kind of talks about where you were from. It developed in childhood. And it
Hmm.
says, in essence, how a primary caregiver, usually parents, acts towards and meets their child's needs forms the foundations for how the child perceives and acts within close relationships. The reason for this is that a child is dependent on their caregivers and seeks comfort, soothing, and support from them. If these caregivers offer a warm and caring environment, like the guy's mom, and
Hmm.
an, and are un and are attuned to the child's physical and emotional needs, even when these needs are not clearly expressed, the child becomes securely attached. On the other hand, misattunement on behalf of caregivers towards their child's physical and emotional needs is likely to lead to insecure attachment. It may be worth noting that caregiver misattunement may not be intentional, but the child still perceives them as not meeting their needs. I can
Yeah,
I can see that.
and when you're a kid, you don't know really you don't know what's happening
Right.
because you're a kid. You don't have the cognitive wherewithal to dissect what is going on. You just know
Hmm.
that something is going on and you internalize this without even knowing it. And then you don't even realize then that you are creating the building blocks for what you will be in adulthood.
And the funny thing is, we look at our parents as these people that don't have issues and problems and things, and they just supposed to know what's going on at all times. And
I'm
like you
telling you, I
said,
thought my mom and dad knew everything. I did. I mean, because they were the center of my world. We had a small family. It was just us, and we were kind of sheltered. We didn't really go out much or do much outside of the house. So everything that I got from them. So I this was my view of the world. My view of the world was through rose-colored glasses that were painted by my parents. So, yeah, I agree with all of this and I see it in myself and I see it in others like in my day job as a teacher, I see it in some of the kids like we do this thing called a morning meeting every day in every class. where it's an opportunity for us to connect personally with our students outside of the educational process.
Okay.
So I'll throw out a question and ask them something about themselves. And there are a lot of children that are reluctant to answer because they don't want to be vulnerable in front of a class full of people.
Oh wow.
And I think it can only come from their home environment because, you know, that's what they're used to. That's their world right now.
Right. Wow. Well,
Yeah.
it says the next section. How does each of the four attachment types manifest in adults? Number one, anxious or preoccupied. Adults with an anxious attachment style tend to have a negative self view, but a positive view of others. This means that they may view their partner as their literal better half because
Mm,
someone with this attachment style deems themselves to be less worthy of love in comparison to other people. The thought of living without their partner or being alone in general causes high levels of anxiety. In other words, they deeply fear abandonment.
yeah. I can see that because I got a friend who's never been alone. Never. And we're the same age. She will be turning 53 this year. And she has never in her adult life had a period where she has not had a partner. So she goes from one relationship to the next. There's no,
Break.
let me take some time for myself. There's no break. There
So there's
never
no,
has
there's no
been.
healing. There's just
It's just because, but that's people, like I said, that's people who don't like themselves or who cannot stand to be alone with themselves. Like I like me. I be chilling with me a lot because I like me. I
right.
genuinely like myself. But I don't think that some people just don't want to do the hard self work. And there are periods, liminal periods in our lives where we have to do this work, and aloneness is a requirement for that.
Mm-hmm.
But some people never go into a liminal space. They just hop from relationship to relationship because they think that whatever is coming from the outside is the better thing.
And I've often wondered when I see people that constantly have to take trip. I can't, it's like, what did one young lady tell me? I can't just stay at home. Like, why? You pay bills there. I mean,
Yeah.
home is supposed to be your place of solitude, happiness, harmony,
Yes.
peace. It's supposed to just prevent everything from the outside world coming in, but you won't want to be on the go all the time. So that just made me think like, oh, you hate to be alone with yourself.
With
Although you
yourself.
portray this happiness, this I'm this, really you don't want to be alone with yourself.
Yep.
That's that's crazy to see it in adults. I mean, kids
And
like to move all the time, but when I
yeah,
see an
because they
adult,
can't help it.
yeah, but when I see an adult that has to, I gotta go, I gotta take a trip, I gotta do, like, damn, sit your
Yeah,
ass
that's
down.
very interesting to me because Sharad, I need those times for me to take stock of what the fuck is going on in my life, and then to see how I'm gonna navigate, through this shit. Sometimes I need to be in solitude so I can be. Sometimes you gotta be the fuck still, and stillness is when I hear the voice of God. I
Okay.
can't hear the voice of God if I'm always on the go or if my mind is always racing. So there's a method to this for me when I'm at the crib and it's time to be still. I'm trying to connect on a spiritual level with
Yeah.
myself and a force and power that's greater than I believe myself to be, where I get everything from. I'm trying to connect with that. And I think some people are intent on avoiding that. They don't want that connection. They have a superficial, I think, relationship with themselves and with the creator.
And the funny thing is, I've heard often that most problems are solved during your sleep. Because, see, it takes your conscious mind out the way and your subconscious takes over. And it
Mm-hmm.
connects to, like you said, that higher power, that
Mm-hmm.
library in the sky of all knowing wisdom and knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets you and your self doubt out the way. And your
Mm-hmm.
subconscious starts doing what it needs to do. And it's like,
Yeah.
man, I was like, wow. Just reading, I think it's a book by Joseph Murphy, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, and
Mm-hmm.
about being still. Just
Mm-hmm.
get out the way.
Also, like, that's where the truth comes from. Like, when you're still and you can still your mind, um, so it's a process of meditation, it's a process of tuning in word. That's where I get most of my answers from.
Hmm.
That's where my revelations come from. That's where I know I can figure out or I receive downloads on what to do fucking next.
Yeah.
If I don't have that, my life would be in shambles. I cannot survive without being still.
I
I cannot survive without connecting to a higher power. I
I
can't.
can't. And what bothers me is when I'm trying to analyze, solve, resolve, and all this other stuff, is to have someone come in and just, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? Look, just back up for a minute. Just give me a minute.
Just
Just
give me a minute.
I
Yes.
need to figure something out. I'm on the cusp of something great here. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Just back up for a
Absolutely.
minute.
Absolutely. I remember when I first moved in with Kadiri, um, I have periods where I have to be silent, I have to be still.
Hmm.
And when you're in a partnership with your if you're in a partner whose lifestyle is different from yours, they don't understand it. And when we first got together, I didn't realize that I needed to explain this.
Hmm.
So there were periods where I would be in the living room and he would be in the bed. I remember one day he was upstairs and I was downstairs and I was doing art, but I was feeling very contemplative this day. And we had, he was doing his thing, I was doing my thing, and the whole house was silent. And we had been operating like this for hours. And I had gone up to the bathroom and then I passed by the bedroom. I didn't say anything to him, I didn't feel like I needed to. And then he came downstairs and damn near cussed me out because he was like, "You acting funny." Wait, no. And I had to explain to him, "No, I'm not acting funny. This is me, tuning in." And I was
Yeah.
doing my art. I was focused on that. And people who don't have that in their lives don't understand that. But also, when you are in relationships, there are some things that you have to communicate. And I didn't realize that I needed to communicate, but in certain relationships, you have to communicate those kinds of things, especially when you two are not on the same spiritual path.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
That's one of them. That's the 5 C's. That's one of them is communicate, and then you got to compromise because you can't always shut down. Like when you at home
mhm.
by yourself, hey, I could shut down and just be.
Yes.
But when you're involved with someone, you know, it's unfair not to let them in. And I know
It
I do
is.
it. I know I do
Yeah.
it. You know.
But I didn't know to do that though, because that was the first time I had ever lived with somebody,
Okay.
cohabitated with somebody. So I didn't know to explain those nuances to a person.
Mhm.
And I don't have a problem explaining now. I just didn't know to do that. Like I said, I came in with tunnel vision, like I'm gonna do this when I get in this relationship and everything's gonna be great. It's gonna be Shangri-La. No, that does not happen like that. You have to communicate effectively. And I did not know. I thought I was a great communicator, and I am, but in relationships, you have to communicate differently.
Yeah.
And you cannot expect your partner to be a psychic. You cannot
Hmm.
expect your partner to just know you like that. You have to let them in.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna finish this up. It says to ease this fear of abandonment, people with anxious attachment styles strongly desire security within relationships, like your friend you just talked about,
Yep.
relationship one after the other, and attention, care, and responsiveness from a partner tends to be the remedy for their feelings of anxiety. On
Yep.
the other hand, the perceived absence of support and intimacy can lead someone with the anxious attachment style to become more clinging and demanding, preoccupied with the relationship, and desperate for reassurance that they are loved. In a nutshell, people with this attachment style value their relationships highly, but are often hyper vigilant towards threats to their security, as well as anxious and worried that their loved one is not as invested in the relationship as they are. That's a bad way to live.
That's a bad way to live. And it seems like those people are always on, like, walking on eggshells, like waiting on the other shoe to drop, or something, like
Yep.
waiting for something bad to happen almost.
Like pessimists, they just like
Yeah,
instead of it
like they're
being half full, it's half
anticipating.
empty. You know.
Yes, and they anticipate being left. Like he's going to or she's going to leave me at some point. And when they do leave, they say, "I knew you were going to leave me." Well, well, yeah, you putting that shit out there. You didn't thought
Yeah.
it this whole time. You didn't created this.
And that can be very dangerous for the partner.
Yeah.
You know. Number two, avoidant or dismissive. People with the avoidant, dismissive attachment style tend to have a positive self view and negative one of others. Consequently, they prefer to foster a high sense of independence and self sufficiency, especially on an emotional level. Let me read that again because that just made me think of something. Now it says,
I feel like somebody spying on me and wrote this.
hey, it says, with people with the avoidant dismissive attachment style tend to have a positive self view, okay, and a negative one of others. Consequently, they prefer to foster a high sense of independence and self sufficiency, especially on an emotional level. Someone with the avoidant attachment style tends to believe that they don't have to be in a relationship to feel complete. Ooh, ooh. They do not want to depend on others, have others depend on them, or seek support and approval on social bonds. Adults with this attachment style generally avoid intimacy or emotional closeness, so may withdraw from a relationship if they feel like the other person is becoming reliant on them in this manner. They also tend to hide or suppress their feelings when faced with a potentially emotion dense situation such as conflict.
This is
Man,
me. Well,
I
this was me. I should say that.
okay.
This was me to the letter almost, except there was a part. Um, so I always had a positive self view,
Yeah, and you
even
should.
if,
And you should.
but even if others did not have the same view, it didn't matter to me ever, because I always liked me, always.
Okay.
But as far as I didn't really have necessarily a negative view of others, but I did not trust people. So maybe that is a negative view. But I did not trust people, and I did not want to be hurt. So I felt like, and this wasn't anything conscious, I felt this is only after years of therapy of recognizing this. Um, if I kept people at a distance, if I kept people at bay, then I wouldn't get hurt,
Right, right.
because when I had people close to me who hurt me, I correlated that hurt with the closeness. So if I
Mm,
didn't let people be close, then I wouldn't get hurt.
okay.
And then, um with regard to, not we don't have to be in a relationship to feel complete, I never even thought about that completeness before. But I understand it now from a very feminine point of view.
Okay.
And I say that because there is a part of my woman self that does not activate unless I am with a man. Like if you and I are in a relationship, the world doesn't receive what I give you. You get that. And it's because of how you make me feel and what you bring out in me. Like when I'm in a relationship, I am the full on woman. I do the full on woman girl thing. I can prance around the house in the heels. I wear certain clothing. I get dressed up in a certain way. When I'm around my man, I'm a certain way than I am when I'm around my homegirls. I'm
Right.
not that way.
Right.
And I'm only that way with my man. So there's a part of me that's never turned on if I'm not in a relationship
Okay.
because other people don't get that. Do you understand what I
Yeah,
mean?
you should never give the same version to different folks. You know, the
Right.
same
And
version of
so
yourself.
but the version that my man get or men get is only because of how I interact with men and how I feel about men in a relationship.
Right.
So if
Right.
I'm never in a relationship, then that part of me never happens. And I don't know if I would call it completeness, but there's a part of my womanness that doesn't reveal itself until I'm in a
You
relationship.
know, should we or is it possible for us to take the word complete out and just put the word complement in?
Yeah,
You know what I'm
I can
saying?
see that.
Because I don't I think we're all complete beings, right? We're
Hmm.
complete all by ourselves. You
Hmm.
know, because you know to say someone completes you, you know, I've always, you know, when I used to record weddings, and I used to sit
Hmm.
up there and listen to the pastor or whatever talking. Say this ring symbolizes a circle, and a circle is this completeness, and you become one. No, 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 no.
Yeah, no.
You're just a team. You're interdependent beings. That's what you are.
Hmm.
You're going to be
Hmm.
dependent on each other at times, and then you're going to work interdependently. I'm like, but you don't become one. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and I'm too literal in my thinking a lot of times. I
Hmm.
literally just, no, that's not what that means. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And and I think that we should put compliment instead of complete. You know.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I can agree with that because I've never felt incomplete. I just, like being in relationships doesn't mean that I'm incomplete without one.
Right.
Like, I hate when people say, like, there's this whole debate going on in the world, this men versus
Yeah.
women versus men. And I saw a post that said, and this is guy, and I think he's a provocateur. I cannot believe that this is really how this man thinks, but because some of the stuff that he says is outrageous. He said that if you're a over 35 or over 40-year old woman and you're still single, something is wrong with you. And um, no man will want to marry you. So these conversations, make my ass hurt because it gives the connotation that I ain't shit unless I'm married
Right.
or if I'm attached to a man. And I just frankly think that's absurd. Um, I don't think that, there are so many people in the world and so many different circumstances surrounding, relationships and why people are single. Um, and plus, those kinds of men have no idea what it's like to be out here a single woman and trying to date.
You know what? Can I say something? I think both
Hmm.
sides, you know, the red pill and the extreme feminists, because
Hmm.
I think they're both the extreme sides of men and women, right?
Hmm.
And I think what they do is cherry pick all the things from traditional relationships, the ones they like the most, and then they
Hmm.
make that the argument, right? You
Hmm.
know, the feminists will say, hey, we want a man that did what our father did and took care of everything. But I'm a modern woman. I don't want to do what my mama did. Well, for me, I believe that the men on the extreme side, they want these submissive women, but they don't want to put in that kind of work that we did back in the day. You know what I'm saying? You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, when I hear that argument of 50-50 or whatnot, I don't remember every family having a mom that was able to just sit at home and not work. My mom's worked at Hudson's. My pops actually took care of everything, but for those
Mm-hmm.
extras and the clothes and this and that and the other, hey, mom's was working at Hudson and she was doing her thing or whatever. And the
Mm-hmm.
majority of people I know did, I don't know what 50-50. I don't ever believe in that crap. It's just we take care of the household together. And that's
Yeah,
what I,
because we all live here.
yeah. And I think that's what's wrong is both sides are taking, just cherry picking what they like out of tradition and trying to make that the full
Mm-hmm.
argument or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, and this other part where it says, what does it say? Um, they do not want to depend on others,
Hmm.
have others depend on them, or seek support and approval in social bonds. For in my experience, it has been I didn't want to depend on others because in the past others had let me
Let me down.
down.
Right. Okay.
So it was always, well, I'll do it. And so then it it created something in me where I couldn't turn that off. But I would love for somebody to take some of this shit off my plate. I would love to be able, but I have a hard time asking for help. I have a
Hmm.
hard time asking for things that I need. And I would rather, and I'm trying to get out of this right now because I'm conscious and aware of this. But there are times when I would rather just do it myself or figure it out rather than go to someone and have to ask for assistance.
For me,
And I think that has everything to do with being let down before.
the one thing that really sticks out to me is when someone throws it back up in your face. I did this for you. And it's like, yo, because a lot of times I won't ask you for your help. Now, if you offer it,
Mm-hmm.
I'll take it. I mean, hey, but
Mm-hmm.
if it's not something extremely important or urgent, I tend to just say, hell, I'll go without it. You know what I'm saying? If I can't get
Mm-hmm.
it right then and there, hey, I'll go without it or whatever.
Yes.
But
Yes.
what I have noticed, this did stick out to me because I hear this all day, and it says they do not want to depend on others, have others depend on them, or seek support and approval in social bonds. And the very arguments that a lot of the women make now is I'm strong, I'm independent, I don't need no man for nothing, and and I don't care what we did in the past, we this. And I listen
Mm-hmm.
to it over and over and over again, right? And then when I hear that argument about strong and independent, if people understand what strong and independent means I can do it by myself. I don't need your help. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, now you can't say, hey, y'all don't protect, y'all don't provide, because you just told me you didn't need those two things, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's that argument I hear. Are you strength doesn't necessarily have to go with independence because sometimes it's harder to work with someone than to work by yourself. Like you said,
So are
I
those
don't want to give
women
over some of that control.
so are those women, do you think that those are the avoidant dismissive types?
You know what? I think some
Is
of them
that
are. I can't say all.
singular to that?
No, I think it's just some of them. I don't think it's all of them. I can never say all of this is all of that. But what I can say is some of them have been let down. And some may have some valid reasons for
Hmm.
saying, you know what, I'll just do it myself, and this and that and the other. But I also believe that there's a great many women that have never experienced that letdown are living the lives or the experiences of other folks. That's what we
Oh, I
tend to
believe
do.
that too.
Yeah.
I do. I believe that too. And where it says adults with this attachment style generally avoid intimacy or emotional closeness. I remember when I was in my 20s and when I would be involved with men and they would be getting closer, I remember feeling uncomfortable. And now as a different woman, I'm like, why? Like I don't even understand now where that came. I mean, I know that it's rooted in my childhood,
Hmm.
but I had this visceral almost response to those men in my life who were trying to be close to me and trying to be because I didn't know how to be vulnerable and I didn't want to be because that was some scary shit for me. Um, and just even looking back at it now I'm open and I desire vulnerability and openness for in my mate now.
Okay.
But I remember being younger and having these responses like I would back away and fall back so out cold if a guy was getting too if I felt like he was getting too close because I didn't know how to respond to that. It made me so uncomfortable, and this conversation is really bringing back memories because I remember being in therapy telling my therapist this, like I would have this physical, it was almost a fear, almost. And I would get this feeling like, I just don't feel right. I don't want it. I don't want it at all. And me and my therapist are trying to work through where that came from and why I would have those responses. And then I would be like, we would have conversations like, if I were different, if I were in a position that I'm in now emotionally back then, would my dating life have been different? Absolutely yes.
Hmm.
Absolutely yes.
Yep.
And I probably pushed away some good dudes because I didn't know how to be I didn't know how to be vulnerable.
And you know what?
And I would withdraw.
I've run across a few women in my day. what what kills me is the, like it says, the intimacy. Like kissing is really intimate, right?
Mhm.
And they would have sex but would not want to kiss.
And yeah,
And
that's
from
odd to
and
me.
for me, it's like, it's like, okay, what is this? And and you know what? Now, the more we read and look at these things and this and that and the other, it's like, wow, it's like, I could have handled it differently back then. Maybe there were some issues with me. I was like, man, I'm up out of here, man, whatever, you know. And in my mind, look, at that time, the way I was thinking, it was like, you know, usually you don't kiss women that you think are, his hoes. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
so it's like,
Yes, I was just about to say that.
so it's like,
And as withdrawn as I would be, because all of my boyfriends up until I was shit almost 40 would be like, you are very aloof. You're standoffish. Like, how can you? This is not sustainable. And a guy broke up with me because I was aloof, but I didn't know how to let go. Anyway, what's odd is that even though I was aloof and even though I would withdraw, nigga, you gonna kiss me because I always felt like that not kissing shit it is reserved for people you don't trust or people who are disposable or whores or whatever.
right,
That's
right.
not me, and you're gonna kiss me. And if you don't want to kiss me, you cannot be involved with me in any way because you're saying there's an underlying thing.
Right.
Like you better kiss me. That was a requirement of mine. If you don't kiss me, then that means you don't mean it. You about to throw me away. Nah, nope, no. So yeah, that's a trip that I was that.
Bruh, what's my man that's in the friend zone forever?
He ain't called me lately either. I hope he got the message finally after the 54th time telling this
All
man.
right. All right, we going to hop over to number 3. Disorganized, fearful, avoidant style. People with the disorganized attachment style tend to facilitate between the traits of both anxious and avoidant attachment.
Hold it. That word is not facilitate.
Vacillate, my fault.
Y'all, charadisms. That's that's what we gonna call these words that he be making up. Charadisms. Facilitate. Facilitating. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm
man.
yelling. My
My
bad.
doggone
Okay,
dyslexia just kicked
let's not talk about my dyslexia.
in. Okay.
Okay, they're
Vacillate.
vacillating.
Okay, people with the disorganized attachment style tend to vacillate between the traits of both anxious and avoidant attachment depending on their mood and circumstances. For this reason, someone with this attachment style tends to show confusing and ambiguous behaviors in their social bonds. For adults with disorganized attachment, the partner and the relationship themselves are often the source of both desire and fear. On the one
Mm,
hand, fearful, avoidant people do not want intimacy and closeness, but on the other hand, experience troubles trusting and depending on others. People with this attachment style often struggle with identifying and regulating their emotions and tend to avoid strong emotional attachment due to their intense fear of getting hurt. That's a hell of a life to live.
that is a hell of a life to live. And I know somebody like that. I know somebody like that, and this perfectly describes them. And I really believe that something happened to them in their childhood. I think it's associated with the relationship he might have had with his mother or some female person in his life a long time ago because he has a problem being intimate and being vulnerable with women. Like he's very I want to call it mysterious, but it's not mysterious. It's something else. I don't even know what to call it, but this whole explanation
Is he
about the
closed off?
disorganized,
He just let
he's
them in.
closed off to a degree.
Yeah, because
Like
he let you in only so far, but then
only
after that,
so
it's like,
yes,
yo,
yes.
this area
Only
right
so
here
much.
is restricted access. Access.
Exactly. That's exactly who he is. And yeah, that's
You
wild.
know
That
what
is a
though?
trip.
Now, maybe in his defense, I mean, because the vulnerability thing, because I've been hearing a lot of that on the platforms or whatever. When they talk
Mhm.
about men being vulnerable or not being vulnerable, you have to realize a lot of times it gets thrown back up at you. You know, what a woman told me: any man that cry is weak. And the one thing that a young lady told me after my brother's funeral was the most powerful thing she saw was all the men crying for my brother, being hurt because he's no longer here. And it's like, wow, what kind of person is this right here? What kind of person is she that says it's weak for somebody to show, hey, I got feelings too?
Now, when Kadiri died,
Okay.
So there was a right before he died, we had called people to come to the hospital,
Okay.
and the whole wing of the ICU unit was filled with like people from the community, mostly men.
Okay.
And I saw that was a very um it was a very telling moment for me because I had never seen men interact with each other in that way. They were crying, they were like punching walls, they were hugging one another, like in
You
a
saw a
way that I had
gambit
never
of
seen men
emotions.
interact before.
Okay.
Yes, yes. And it was just raw emotion, and nobody was in their ego. There was no over display of masculinity that day, and it was a beautiful thing. It really was a beautiful thing to see because I had never seen it before. And we don't often think of men having feelings like that. We don't think of men having male attachments, and we don't think of men having very real intimate relationships with one another.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me view men in a different way after seeing that with my own eyes. It was like, oh man, I'd have had it all wrong this whole time because men, they put on this, y'all. And it's not even you put on anything, you're just men. You're different from us, different from women. Like we're all emotional beings,
Mm-hmm.
but we express our emotions differently. Women will, cry, um talk you to death, scream and holler or whatever when they're emotional. Men do other things when they're emotional. They express their emotions differently. So when I saw them being raw with their emotions and being totally authentic and genuine with them, it made me see how closed minded I was to the vulnerability of men, and that vulnerability is a part of masculinity.
Very much so.
I had never even considered that before.
And the funny thing is, when it comes to masculinity, masculinity, you know, when I hear the word toxic masculinity, you know, masculinity and femininity in and of itself, those are not toxic things. You
Mm-hmm.
know, the only way I can even view that statement or those statements or those phrases as being real is to just say the person with that toxic behavior was feminine. You know, it was a woman
Mm-hmm.
or it was a man. I
Mm-hmm.
can't call masculinity or femininity in and of itself toxic because it's a very loving thing. Both they're because
Mm-hmm.
they're meant to be together and to create something beautiful. So
Mm-hmm.
I can't view it as toxic, but people have toxic traits. They're
Mm-hmm.
toxic people.
Mm-hmm.
Masculinity in and of itself, because the very same, okay, case in point. Now, we can take a man who has anger, right? And he can go out, hurt somebody. Or he could
Mm-hmm.
take that anger to fuel himself or to use it as fuel to become a better version of himself by doing something. Like, you know what? I'm mad at the world right now. You know what? But I will no longer be the doormat. This is what I'm going to do to better myself. I'm going to take this anger and instead of staring it this way, I'm going to take it this way and be positive with it. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? So what you witnessed was just masculinity, like you said, in its raw form. Because, you know, when you look at men, it's like, man, you the love, the daps, the hugs, the hey man, what's up, bro? You know, when I'm not a
Mm-hmm.
homie of yours, you know, it's like, what up, bro? Yeah. But when you my
Mm-hmm.
man's, it's those are hugs. It's like, come on, bro, you know,
Right.
and
Yeah.
and I don't understand how women can't see that because it's when your man has friends and you're like, well, you know, why they around? We done been to war. I mean, you know, they,
But we don't. because so a lot of the times women and men's lifestyles are different just by virtue of our gender.
Mm,
Like I I attribute, like, when I think of men, I think of lions in the wild, and they have to go out into the world with this persona of hardness because you don't want to give the impression that I can get run over or knocked down. I'm a
right.
man, and men are the protectors. So when you go out into the world, there's this guard, and it's not necessarily anything that you have to put up. It's, I'm a man, and I'm gonna stand on business. I'm gonna stand on my
And I'm
man shit.
aware of what's going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
So from a woman's view, it's when we look at men, I know for me, my view of men is filtered by that. So I can often forget that men have feelings, that men have close, intimate, personal relationships with other men, that men cry, men hurt. I forget that because men, you know, they're the protectors, they're the providers, they're the maintainers. And so all of that other stuff is buried beneath that.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to then tune in or, wipe off my glasses or whatever to remember that, oh shit, this man is a person too. He's equipped with the same shit I'm equipped with, but just in a different package.
Right.
Because I remember one time, one of Kadiri's really close homeboys had come over. He was going through some shit with friend of the court, and his baby moms was keeping his daughter from him. And as he was telling Kadiri the story, he started to cry. And so Kadiri got up, gave him a hug, and his friend tried to like break away. And Kadiri was like, nah. And then he said the words, I got you, man. Like giving him permission to just let it all out because he was going to go because he felt, I guess, shame for, revealing this vulnerable side to him
Mm-hmm.
in front of both me and Kadiri. But Kadiri was all the way tuned in, like, nah, I got you. I'm my brother's keeper, and you need to cry, and you need to cry on my shoulder right now.
You
And the
know what?
guy just let it out.
That's the funny thing right there because you just got to witness what a lot of women don't see. You know, when a lot of times when you hear a man act as if he don't care, it's protection. I got to protect my
Hmm.
emotional state of being. You know,
Hmm.
going through that system, yo, your babies mean a lot to you. You know, they always say it's nothing like a mother's love. Well, there's nothing like a father's love either. We have two different types of love. And
Yes.
my thing is when I would see when I'm with my children, even to this day, hey, I love them. You know, do they get on my nerves? Yeah, they sure do. Do I say things to them that their moms will cringe and be like, "Oh, don't say that"? No, this is me. Yeah, we different. You know, when I see
Hmm.
them do something, I'm calling you out. But they also know, pops, I need you. I'm there for you. You know, and I'm not going to intrude on your life on things, right? When you let me know you need me, because I like to, hey, try to handle it on your own. If you can't, I got you. Whereas moms, a
Hmm.
lot of mothers are really intrusive, like, I got you, you know, you don't, no, back up. Let them solve this. And what you got a chance to see was a man who had that taken away from him, or is,
Hmm.
and you see the hurt. It's like,
Hmm.
why do I have to fight to be what others claim I don't want to be? I don't want to
Hmm.
fight this. Look, we can break up, but just don't take my babies.
Hmm.
And when you sit and if you were ever a fly on the wall when men are going through that, and me and a couple of homies was going through it at the same time, and it's reassuring each other like it's gonna be okay, bruh. Just keep fighting this and that. So that's the things that a lot of women don't get to see. So they say, "Oh, y'all just walk away easily." No, it's not easy. It's a calculated move, and one, it may not be right because older men have always told me, look, bruh, sometimes you just gotta chalk up the loss and just wait for them to mature one day to come to you. But always leave the door open. And that's what I say. Hey man, you can fight all you want to, but what I've seen is sometimes you're gonna lose. And when you do, don't take it out on the child. Just sit back and just, hey, when you're here, I'm here. And like I said, you got the chance to see the raw emotion of a man having something that he loved being torn from him.
Yeah, I did, and it was a beautiful moment shared between two men. And also, I knew then I, there was no need for me to intervene at all because this was not my moment.
Right.
So
That's cool.
a lot of the times, because I knew some couples where when the homies were over, they would go upstairs. The woman would go upstairs or to another part of the house.
Hmm.
Me and Kadiri didn't have that dynamic. Um, when any of our people came over, shit, I live here, or he was always there, I was always there, so I was always a part. I was always privy to those relationships, but I didn't inject myself into
Okay.
their
All right.
conversations. I would respond if I was invited in. Like with that particular moment, I knew that that was their moment.
Right.
And there wasn't space for me there. That wasn't my time. That was, you know what I mean? That this is not my interaction. This is solely for them.
And you were just
And
being
nor
really
did I want to
considerate.
insert myself.
Right. Right. Right.
So, yeah.
That's cool. Number 4,
Number
secure
4.
attachment. The 3 attachment styles covered so far, anxious, avoidant, and disorganized, are insecure attachment styles. So they are characterized by difficulties with cultivating and maintaining healthy relationships. In contrast, the secure attachment style implies that a person is comfortable expressing emotions openly. Therefore, adults with a secure attachment style can depend on their partners and in turn let their partners rely on them. Relationships with someone with a secure attachment style are based on honesty, tolerance, and emotional closeness. Although someone with this attachment style often thrives in their relationships, they also don't fear being on their own. Secure attachers tend to have a positive view of themselves and others, so they do not overly seek external approval or validation. They can successfully identify and regulate their emotions and even help a partner do so with theirs. So this seems like the positive attachment right here.
And I think this is what we should all strive for.
Hmm.
I haven't made it there yet. And if I have, I haven't had a chance to put it into practice
Okay.
because I think my last relationship, I learned so much about being in relationships that it has prepared me for my next one. So hopefully, I am this, but I won't know. Like, I feel like I'm there,
Okay.
but I won't know until I put it into practice.
Okay.
But I think that we should all strive for this. I think this right here, adults with a secure attachment style can depend on their partners and in turn let their partners rely on them. I think that's the ultimate
Yeah,
goal.
that
That's
is.
that's relationship goals right there.
And then 1 through 3 is probably what we all teeter between at some points in our lives, like phases or
Mhm.
whatever, depending on
Mhm.
how what your childhood was. And
Mhm.
but the secure attachment style is what we are striving for
Yes.
ultimately.
That's the ultimate goal.
All right, dig that. Dig that. Well, I don't think that need explanation.
No, because the
That's
verdict
the
is
goal. Look,
that the
relationship goal.
goal, yes, relationship goals is attachment number 4. Because, we all want security, Sherrod. We
Hmm.
want security everywhere in every facet of our lives. We want job security, or I'm sorry, not job security. Well,
Financial.
for folks who have a job and believe in that, we want financial security. We want hopefully emotional security.
Hmm.
We want to feel secure in all of our relationships, not just ones that we have with our romantic partners.
Right.
Um, I want children want to feel secure in the relationship they have with their parents.
Hmm.
um, you want to feel secure in the relationship that you have with your friends, with your siblings. So I think that this is something that we all should strive for, that we all should, I think, desire to attain
Hmm.
security in our relationships, because this isn't, relationships are not one-sided. Not any relationship is one-sided.
No.
We all have something to contribute. We all have work to do in a relationship. But again, none of this secure attachment thing, and then these other things, the other three can't be alleviated until you have done your self work.
Yep.
It starts with you first. And even with the secure attachment, if you haven't done your self work, you're not going to have that ever.
Hmm.
It starts with you. Each individual has to do their own work. I cannot come to you, a broken individual or a jaded individual, and expect to have a healthy, balanced relationship.
Right.
I have to, I think that we're all healing. You know, there are degrees to it, there are steps to it. But if I know that I'm in the healing process and I'm actively working on being my best self, then I can bring that to my relationship. And then if I know that I want security in my relationship, there's work that I have to do to attain that as a person.
Hmm.
I can't come to you and be able to compromise if I'm unhealthy emotionally or psychologically. So you got to work on you to have anything substantial, any kind of substantial, long lasting, fulfilling, balanced relationship.
Right. Right.
That's my verdict, y'all.
Hey, and I'm going to agree with that verdict because it's, hey, that's relationship goals. To be
Yes,
secure in and out of a relationship, you got to come to the relationship complete, and we have to complement one another.
yes, we are already complete, y'all. You don't
Not,
need another person to complete. And I never really understood that when people say, "Oh, he or she completes me." No, because I feel like you should be that when you meet
yeah,
them.
because that means you're broken if they complete you.
Yes, that means that you're missing something.
Hmm.
I don't think that any of us are missing anything. If we're born in the image of the Creator, I'm not missing anything.
Right.
I'm perfection personified, really. So yeah, so yeah, that's our verdict, y'all.
Yeah,
Couple goals is secure
a
attachment
secure
in our
attachment.
relationships.
Yep. Hey, so hit that like, share, subscribe button if you want to hear more verdicts by Virgos on the Virgo verdict.
The Virgos got a lot to say, y'all. I know
Oh,
y'all
yeah.
want to tune in.
Yeah.
Because we got some exciting topics coming up. So y'all please like and share. Tell all your homies about it. And we be on here talking about stuff. And leave a comment. Leave several
Yeah.
comments. Because, we might not get it right all the time. So we're
Yeah, I
open to
mean,
some dialogue.
healthy dialogue. And hey, if you got some topics you want to hear us talk about, leave them. Leave a link down there. Talk. Let's talk. Let's kick it.
Yes, let's kick it.
Well, I appreciate you, Miss Ricks, for kicking it with me on a Friday night.
Awesome. I appreciate you for having me. I look
Yes,
forward to these little kicking sessions.
yes,
It's
ma'am.
like, y'all, I get to kick it with my homeboy for a whole hour every week. I love it. And sometimes more than an hour. We've been yapping away today.
Yeah, we over an hour.
Yes, yes.
So,
All right, Mr. Cohen.
yes, ma'am.
Um, it was my pleasure, and I will
Likewise.
see you next time.
Yes. Peace.
All right, y'all. Peace.